Okay, here we go. Mein Englisch ist nicht wirklich toll, ihr werdet es vielleicht gleich hören, aber ich versuche es trotzdem, weil es durchaus möglich ist, dass ja, der eine oder andere besser Englisch spricht oder hört, als ich es spreche. Also nicht wundern, wenn ich es gleich versuche. Werde aber auch für die, die nicht ganz so sicher sind, im Englischen auch noch zwischendurch Deutsch reden. Okay, so let's start. Dear Wolves, I'm happy to welcome you all today on behalf of Volt Essen, Volt Dortmund, and Volt Düsseldorf. Today's program is fully dedicated to the forthcoming General Assembly, which will take place this year in Sofia, Bulgaria. In just a few days, Volt will setting the course for the future, and you can get to know some of our future locomotive drivers. Today you have the opportunity to meet two candidates for the male co-lead, Omri Preiss and Reinier van Lanschot is still on the street. It's too many traffic. Okay, let's see. They're here live in Perlenkind and a minute. Oh, a bit later. Okay, later you can ask them anything about Europe and the way they want to go with. Furthermore, you will get to know the candidate for the female co-lead, Valerie Sternberg, who will join us online via live stream connection, and as other guests who will join us online, we expect to welcome Vahid Salaman, and Draco Sölke applied for the board of Volt Europe. Since this promise to be a quick challenge program, I prefer to be brief with my introduction. So let's go. Hi Valerie.
Hallo, kann man mich gut hören?
Wir hören dich.
Wunderbar. Vielen Dank für die sehr nette Einleitung. Soll ich auf Deutsch oder auf Englisch weitermachen? Für Omri auf Englisch auch?
Englisch, ja.
English? Okay. Hi, Essen team. I'm a bit sad because I can't see you. I will just speak to Draco instead. Yeah, thanks for setting this up. Thanks, Olaf and Dennis. So I think most of you know me as ex-board of Volt Deutschland, and I'm very happy to present myself as a candidate for co-president of Volt Europa. And before I give you a little overview over my goals for the next, for the next 2 years, which I would try to, or which I would like to go for, I wanted to take you a little bit on my train of thought that I had when I was coming up with my goals. So I think the last 2 years have been incredibly exciting, a roller coaster for all of us. And we've been sprinting, not a lot of marathon, but a sprint really over the last 2 years. And I think what we've proven is what you can do within such a short amount of time with people, because we had everything but money. We had people, we had talent, we had ideas, we had a lot of potential. And I think what made Volt really unique in its success and our common success in Europe and in Germany with the European elections is our potential and talent in Volt, which we actually got on the street. And so this is and was a huge part of the reason for our success. So every single flyer, everything that really helped us getting mobilizing voters, people trusting us, all of that was a huge part of it. And so I think it's a very natural consequence that one of my first goals is expanding on that. So we are already a really great movement, and I think there is still a lot more to get out of. So my first goal would be achieve a pan-European movement, in the sense that I think we have mastered a really great challenge, and now we need to turn to new ones, which are more on the regional and local elections. And for that, we need a new narrative. We need a narrative that resonates with people, where people are immediately like, oh, okay, great. This is why I need to vote Volt. We need to invest even more in people. We need to understand how everyone can really unfold their talent and really have a say in Volt, really live up to their potential and have a responsibility. And I think we need to do something that we tried and we missed a little bit, I think, during the last campaign, and we can definitely expand on, is the literally personal, physical presence of the European level at the local and regional level during campaigns, but actually all the time. So having said all that, I was talking a lot about our biggest asset, which is people. We are a people-powered movement, but in the end, what also got us the last meters that we really needed in Germany was the really big donation that someone gave to us because this person trusted in us. And so I think we as people, we can really, make people trust us, because we are a movement that sort of mirrors this, but we need also money, because we need to go the extra mile with money. And for that, I think this will be a big part of the professionalizing process. So again, it will be investing in people, but it will be more in identifying key positions, key positions that we need involved, because we need to rely on these positions at all times during the week, because we just need these people in their management or in their coordination or whatever they're doing, and we need to rely on them. And for us to be able to rely on them, they need to be able to rely on us. So I think we need to identify key positions and really employ them and fundraise for them also at European level. There was a lot of talking about accountability and transparency also in Germany. I think we all know what it feels like when we don't quite understand how things are going, and I think it's a big learning for us for most, because even if it's just perceived in transparency, it's not nice, and we can do a lot on that, because in the end, I think it's a lack of communication, and we can all get smarter on using the right channels and understanding our audience better internally and externally. So there will be something, improve communication, develop standards and norms on how, when do we communicate with whom, on what. I think also we can become way more effective in that we understand our bigger goals better and really break them down for all teams. So the teams always know, this is my goals, and these are and the goals are set within these priorities. So this is how I have to tackle them, because obviously you all know, you probably do all this next to a really busy week, next to a job, perhaps even family. So you need if you commit time to Volt, you just need to be able to get straight on it. Last but not least, on that goal is gender balance. We also know what that means in Germany. After the campaign, I think it will be extremely important, but we've already started really good measures in Germany, and I think we are slowly improving, and not losing that, not stopping here will be crucial. And I think we can do that as long as we keep talking about it and acknowledging the challenge. Last but not least of my goals would be innovate, because I think there's two key things that we can do so much better than any other party in Germany or Europe. The one thing is policy making. I think we can really be so much better in policy making than any other party, because the other parties have not understood yet what social media and digital infrastructure can do to a participatory, or what they can do to have a more participatory, educative policy process. It also means understanding a lot of other things in terms of policy making, but getting a good understanding and really pioneering the work there. So our two goals of participation and education will be reached, will be key, and then we will be ways or miles ahead of other parties. And the last point on that goal is evidence-based and data-driven policymaking and communication. Actually taking this into everything that we are working on will be will be also giving us a huge head start to other parties, because all the other parties still have not really understood what it means to communicate in a data-driven manner. So do A/B testing, really understand what people want to hear, what they want to talk about externally, what they're interested in, what, you know, there's always different framings for one topic, so what framing is the most appealing. And the same thing internally. So we were talking about transparency. What do we people actually want to hear within Volt? What do we all want to talk about? But what are the topics that are a little bit less interested and we don't need to communicate as much? I think will be really important. So these are my top 3 sort of goals, with lots of sub goals and measures that I proposed. And I will be very happy to take some questions here, but also feel free to reach out to me via social media, workplace, email, whenever you want to, or join some of my Q&As that I'm currently doing on Zoom. Thank you.
Have you time for some questions?
Yeah, I rushed through, so I could have some.
Okay. Some questions to Valerie. Okay. I've got one question. It's for me a little bit too complicated in English, so I use my neighbor to translate it. Okay. Okay. Es gibt sehr viele deutsche Volter und in vielen Ländern sind nur wenige Volter vertreten. Da gibt es eine gewisse Schieflage und manche sehen auch eine Gefahr, dass eben einige ja, andere sich da ein bisschen überrannt fühlen. Wie möchtest du damit umgehen?
I will reformulate it a little bit briefer. So we have a lot of German participants in the Vault organization, and maybe other Vault organizations within the European community in other countries would say that the German part is too strong. How can we counter this kind of threat to empower other regions?
Yeah. So I think we can actually use this very smartly. So the one thing will be, actually, I forgot to mention that we talk a lot about best practice sharing, but we do it on a personal level. So some people do it, some people don't, but we haven't institutionalized it. And I think while Germany will probably not be forever best practice, still we have made experiences that other people, that other teams haven't done, whereas other teams have made other experiences and established other best practices. And I think by sort of a team structure, we can already share these things. So if the European team is set up in a way that allows best practice sharing in an easy and effective manner, then that will be great. I think another level that is just as important as the personal level, which we try to keep up, and I think it can be improved. It's sort of really training, passing on the capacity that we have gained in Germany to the other countries. So whether it is by finding some people who are very happy not engaging in the German team, but perhaps if they're on a holiday or something, going to another team and telling them how we do it, or even engaging in another team, or even as a European team, also creating more occasions where we really talk to each other and share our experiences. I think this will help us all. And I think I have never heard that the German team is like running around as sort of superior or anything to the other teams. I think this really doesn't exist in Volt, and I think it's great, and because we would have never achieved anything without the other European teams, and to really feel as a team and not letting the knowledge stop at one border. I think what happens sometimes now will be the challenge, and will be these two things that we need to tackle it. So institutionalizing best practice sharing and personal exchange of knowledge.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions?
I have one, yes. Yeah. Hi, I'm Sasha, the translator, and I have also a question. I would like to know, we have involved a quite academic approach to every question we want to address. So I see the problem when I speak to my fellow citizens that they don't understand me. So if I talk to a common participant of this society, how can we change this? This is, I think, a more urgent problem than the empowerment of the other communities in Europe.
Okay, so yeah, I completely agree that it's a really important challenge. I think it goes hand in hand though with empowering and helping the communities, because we can only empower if we have a narrative that resonates with all of us. And I think if you think back how Volt got you, there was probably either it resonated with you because it was, let's say, logical or whatever, but probably there was also someone and your team sharing a personal story and telling you why this was so important to engage. And then you were probably like, okay, I need to jump on. At least I think this is what I heard from most people. So I think the one thing is to really, as you say, like find a more emotional narrative. The things are coming up next year. This will be really crucial for you guys too. But then in the other thing that again goes hand in hand with empowering people is training everyone to to know how to tell their story. So try and find your own way of telling people why you joined Volt and make it a story of you, and try to make it a story that also resonates with that other person. And I think then we will be able to, you know, get it like nodding and people understanding, okay, this is why you joined.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry.
No, thank you.
So my name is Marcus from Aachen. I do have a question because I meet many people inside Volt, around Volt, and effectively, if I talk to people about Volt, they ask me what you stand for. So this is what I see with the upcoming elections here in the country, the Kommunalwahlen, probably federal election quite soon. We will have to be able to forward ways to solutions based on clear standpoints. But what I see in Volt, which I greatly appreciate, we share all and everything, best practices and other practices. There is a happily blossoming spectrum of opinions and views and things to everything. But how will we come to channel these views? How will we be able to do a opinion building which we can forward into the public so that we can say, here, these are our points based on, and that's what we stand for, which is differentiating us from other parties. And this is part one of the question, how will we do this for Germany? I feel there a tremendous challenge. Of course, this challenge grows thus the more we get outside of Germany, and all Europe needs to do some opinion building for tangible standpoints. How do you see this? How do we get there?
Yeah, I think it ties a little bit into the former question, that I think in terms of communication and mobilize voters, you always have two ways of communicating. You can either communicate who you are and why you are appealing. So we are a movement, we are pan-European, we are progressive. So that's more the who we are. And then we can also communicate.
Excuse me if that hurt.
Pardon?
Excuse me, that's just labels. The people don't go for labels. They want to feel what is behind.
Yeah, so exactly, but still you need to start communicating, right? So I understood your question was how do we communicate with people who we are, no?
Right, yeah.
And why should they vote for us? And I think the one thing is who we are, and that's labels. But I think this is not just labels, because people could actually very much feel it during the European elections, and they will again if you in Essen will go out to mobilize voters. to vote for you, and at the same time people could already see we were doing the exact same thing, people being close to people. We're people powered, we're close to people, we want to talk to people, but we're not only that, we're also pan-European because we just did the exact same thing at local level in Brussels, for instance. So it's not just labels, it's actually we live this. And then the second thing I think, which is equally important to communicate in politics, is what do we stand for and what change will this invoke for people? Why should they vote for us? What will they get out of it? And there, I think we have two things. So the one thing will be making understandable why a European movement needs to start from the bottom, why democracy needs to be done at the very bottom at local level. But the other thing will also be, which I don't want to take away already, but I think this will go back to what I said in data-driven communication. So we need to find out what are the voters interested in Essen, for instance, what do they care about, and then we dive into that.
Okay.
That would be my. I don't know if this answered your question.
Yeah, to a point.
Okay. Any other questions? Da hinten. Okay. Genau, du darfst auf Deutsch.
Hallo erstmal. Ich hätte eine kleine Frage wegen, in verschiedenen Gebieten in Europa sind ja die Volt-Mitgliederzahlen unterschiedlich stark. Deutschland stärker als zum Beispiel jetzt in Polen oder Russland, Weißrussland, würde ich jetzt sagen. Was ist, wenn wir irgendwann so viele Volt-Stärke in Deutschland, Frankreich, zum Beispiel auch noch dann Holland, Belgien haben, dass die sich dann vereinen könnten zu einem europäischen Land, aber dann halt Länder, wie halt Volt nicht so stark ist, sich dagegen aussprechen. Da ist jetzt meine Frage, dann würden wir jetzt dann ein kleineres europäisches Land machen oder warten, bis die anderen dann mitziehen?
Okay, ich versuche darauf zu antworten. Ich glaube, dass schon alleine dadurch, wie Volt derzeit institutionalisiert ist, dass das schwierig sein wird. Natürlich können potenziell stärkere Teams auch immer irgendwie mehr machen. Aber wenn man sich derzeit anschaut, wie unsere Teams, also wir haben ja eigentlich eine sehr, ich glaube, was Volt von Anfang an richtig gemacht hat, let's switch back to English. So what I think did Volt from the beginning did it exactly right was, in a sense, detaching the political part from the, let's say, the organizational or the machine. And obviously they influence each other as well, but they're still separate in their organization. What I mean by that is we have the board levels and sort of the political exchange, how do we position ourselves and so on. But then also we have the functional team levels. And these teams are always able to communicate straight down. So the communication lead at European level, let's say Draco, communicates also with the German comms guy, and then the German comms guy talks with the Essen guy. And so what you have there is that if at some point the German leadership and the French and the, I don't know what you said, like let's say Italian, decides, oh, we want to do our own Europe and leave the others out, I'm not sure that would be possible because there's like all the rest that is still communicating and still working as a team. So I think that is something that strengthened Volt from the very beginning and also made Volt feel like we actually are a team. We're not just a bunch of countries being thrown together. We are a team and work as a team. But I'm sure we can even improve on that a lot.
Okay, some more questions? No? Okay. Thank you, Valerie. Okay. So what's next? Auf jeden Fall versuche ich es jetzt noch auf Deutsch. Danke, dass du da warst, dass du dich live zugeschaltet hast. Ich weiß, du hast nicht viel Zeit, aber vielleicht bleibst du ja noch so ein bisschen on, während wir uns jetzt gleich so mit Omri und mit Reinier noch beschäftigen. So, Wir sehen uns auf jeden Fall hier in Essen, spätestens dann im November. Ciao. Jetzt mal ciao, dahin. Ciao. So, jetzt auch. Okay. Yeah. Who's next? Omri, I think you've been a little bit earlier here. So you're right.
We already on the transport, right?
Okay. Okay. Don't tell something, talk, start, and oh, just a moment.
The logistical question is the microphone.
Okay.
No, I will pass it.
I will pass it.
Yeah. And if we switch the microphones, then the Zoom guests won't hear anything, I suppose.
Okay, so this.
So if the Zoom guests will be staying in, then we should keep that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take this
Okay.
away.
Great.
So, okay.
So. Okay, great. So thank you very much, everyone. It's really amazing to be here. It's amazing that you organize this with different teams across the region. And I heard from the Essen team here that you've only been around for 3 months. So congratulations on setting something like this up so quickly. As an expansion lead, it's really warms my heart, you know, to see such growth and prosperity and success. So that's amazing. And I'm going to pick up straight away on some of the amazing questions that we had just now, because I think some of these issues on narrative and storytelling are really crucial. I think the question is, you know, where are you in my story? Where am I in your story? And where does that connect? Where can we really feel each other in each other's story? So I was born in Israel and I grew up all over Europe. So I really experienced throughout my childhood moving around. And obviously that created a connection to Europe and to open borders. And then I ended up working in the European Parliament. And I remember the morning after Brexit, the referendum, I was sitting in my office in a tower in the European Parliament and going, fuck, this is not working. And we need to do something different. And if we want to change direction from nationalism, if we want to do something on climate change, if we want to fix the economy, we need to tell a new story about Europe. So I joined Volt, and that's how I ended up here. And what I'm doing now in running is I'm trying to live up to embody the spirit of doing politics in a new way and changing things up a little bit so that we can really live up to our potential as a movement. And that means that I've been working to create together, to co-create together an agenda, a program, by going around different cities, talking to people, understanding what the issues are, what is it that you face in your day-to-day, and bringing those ideas into a program. So I drafted a proposal, and I'm working with all of you to build it together. And that proposal is based around 3 items, 3 elements, that I think are important, priorities that we need to work on: our vision, our mission, and the action that we need to take. Those 3 things. And those are elements of work that we need to do together to have long-term success as a movement. So in terms of vision, what are we talking about? Exactly this narrative. How can we be sure ourselves about what it is that we want to achieve, what it is that we want to stand for? Because like you say, we can say pan-European, we can say progressive, we can say all these things, and these things have meaning, but we need to be aware of what they mean together. That's how we survive in the long run, and that's also how we grow, because when you talk to someone on the street that maybe doesn't have 3 master's degrees and maybe doesn't speak 7 languages or whatever it is, or isn't a tech engineer or whatever, they need to get it because people are concerned with their lives and the issues that they care about in their day-to-day. And then the other elements in the vision are that we need to build a model democracy within the movement that is the democracy that we want to see in society. If we want change, we need to be the change, right? And in order to do that, we need to train leadership, empower leadership. We've had community organizing from the Harvard Kennedy School, this very well-developed leadership system. We need to invest more in that kind of training so that when we have a new team that's here for 3 months, then all the team leads get the training that they need. Then we have the mission. What is it that we want to do together? Obviously, we're a political party for the first time across Europe. We need to win elections. Great, we know that at all levels, everywhere, all over the place. But to do that, we need to have deep roots in the communities where we live, and we need to have local communal impact. That means that we need to build capacity on the ground to be able to empower people locally and to create change. And that means that we need diversity. So gender balance is very important. And across the movement, we don't have enough of it. And we need more people that are not necessarily just tech engineers and then lawyers and so on. So we need to make sure that we reach out to everyone. And then action means we need management. We need to professionalize. I've had a professional experience, and this is what I'm bringing to the table. Working in politics, working in different movements, we need to have a board that basically sets a direction, sets goals at the European level that the executive level can meet. And we need to be able to have sustainable fundraising. As Valerie mentioned, we need full-time staff. We need people that come to work in the morning, turn on the lights. You know, we need to have, you know, some money flowing and rely on people to be there. And then we need to invest those resources in growth. You know, we've been very large in Western Europe, you know, in specific countries. In Germany, as was mentioned, we need to really put in resources into growing in Central Europe and Eastern Europe, where the political situation is more difficult sometimes. So we need to put that training in, put those resources in there. So those are the elements of vision, mission, and action, and kind of outline the things that I care about. And what I would like you to do is just bring up what you care about. So let's leave it there and bring you in. Cheers.
Okay. So I absolutely get your point. We need some management. We need to professionalize certain things. That has already been said, and everything fine. So that was the nice part. Now comes the less nicer part. I refocus on the issue of opinion building, because we have here in the country now elections coming up. There are people, it's not that much to the extent whether they are academics or non-academics. What I feel, people I'm talking to, from entrepreneurs via managers to very simple people everywhere, they want to know clearly, what do we stand for? Why is that different to the others? And why are we credible on getting it through? So these issues, of course, your statement stays behind. It's necessary. Absolutely agree. We need to expand, to grow, to do all these things, but that's the inner organization view. I see the problem, and I believe that this is a long-run problem. We will, now next year, we have the local elections in Germany. Somewhere between next year and 2 years afterwards, it's federal elections. Then comes the regional election, other elections in other countries. We will always meet this point that people want very clear, very concrete points from a no-name with no credibility. So, and as much as I support your entire planning of vision, mission, action, and there's many ideas, by the way, which I would love to bring in, because I do these things professionally sometimes, with pleasure, but that does not bring us the solution. How do we come to one opinion building? What I'm meaning is, I have my personal political views. I'm 56 years old. I have done a lot of stupid things. I know what I'm talking about. So I meet my people in Aachen on our team. It's a great team. It's great people. And if there's 25 people for an evening, there's at least 45 opinions in the room. So how do we come to forge all these to one, let's say, one margin of opinion, which we can transport to the elector, still beating up with these points? It must be concluded, it must be credible, and it must differentiate us from the others. That is my essential. what were the two
maybe I'll take it back from you so people hear what I say. So yeah, I think what you've just outlined is one of the most urgent things that we need to do as a movement, which is why it's there on the discussion. And I think there are different elements to it. So to begin with, I think we need to understand what we're looking for, right? And when people see something on TV or on the street or in a speech or whatever, they relate to a story of a hero, let's say, you know? So you have hero, choice, outcome, or hero, problem, choice, outcome, right? It can be the Matrix, it can be Harry Potter, it can be Lord of the Rings, it can be Obama, it can be Trump. And what we need to do is tell that, well, no, but you know, you can hate the narrative, but the story is still there. You can hate what it means. So what we need to do is to show, here I am as a European citizen, here I am concerned about all these things, here I am taking action together with all of us, you know, standing up, you know, in a new way, working across borders. And we need to emotionalize this, and we need to show this persona, this that we're trying to build up together. And it's not about a personality, it's about the idea that each of us presents. Because the reason that the American dream is so powerful is that you can feel it, you know, as soon as you hear it. And we need the equivalent of that within Volt and across Europe. Not of, oh, I made it on my own, you know, let me go and I'll go out and shoot some people in the wilderness and I'll hit the gold and make it myself. But no, we will make it together by being creative, by being supportive, by being cooperative, and, you know, standing up for what we believe in. So I think this is an element of the plot line that we're looking for. But then at the same time, I think when we're looking for credibility, we have this element of bringing a lot of people together, building trust in the movement. And the reason that I'm emphasizing co-creation as a process is that it requires a lot of trust. And you're talking about building up, bringing all these views together, right? And we are a broad church, as they say. You know, there are many different opinions. Some people come from a more liberal background or a more green background or their own background. They've never been in politics. And we need to bring that together through a culture of trust and understanding each other and celebrating each other's difference of opinion and coming together towards that compelling storyline that we're looking for, right? And I think that it can be very scary sometimes because you're like, ooh, what if it's messy? What if people don't agree? What if people don't hear, don't see? If we build up a credible process that involves people and activates people, we can have trust that it will move in the right direction. So, yeah. How much time? Do we have time for more?
One more question.
Oh, wow. Talk you all under the table. Okay.
Next. Reinier van Lanschot.
Yes, please.
Come on. Okay. Good evening. Ik wens je... nee, ga je kennis maken.
Alex. Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much, first of all, for having me here. I'm sorry I'm a bit late, but I ran into some awful traffic, and I'm happy I'm here now. And I will briefly tell you something about myself, about what I think where I think we should be going as Volt. And I'll also try to tap on into some of the questions like Omri did very well just now. So here it goes, and thank you for listening. Well, first of all, today is actually quite an interesting day for me because exactly a year ago is the moment that I quit my full-time job and started volunteering full-time for Volt. So, thank you. And I was recently with some friends this past weekend, and they asked me, how do you look back at that decision? And I can honestly say I haven't regretted it for a second. I want to do even more. And I love working for Volt and volunteering for Volt because it has broadened my horizon. It has pushed me out of my comfort zone to a distance that I would never dare to go before. And it was an incredible experience. How did it all start? Well, I'm the youngest of 3 brothers. I recently turned 30, and I think due to being the youngest of 3 brothers, I'm really, really bad at handling injustices. When I wasn't as strong as they were bullying me, and I felt like there's so much injustice. And that feeling of constant injustices, that has never left. Furthermore, I think it's even gotten bigger when I grew older, and I can't stand injustices in general, but I can't stand them even more if it's due to a lack of will of people to solve these injustices. And when I saw the way we handle migration flows, I felt like this is so solvable if we would just work together differently in the European Union. We can do so much more in tackling climate change. And all we need is to change the way we work together in the EU. But the world was going in the absolute opposite direction. Brexit happened. And I thought to myself, somebody should do something about this. And then I realized I am somebody too. So that's when I met Andrea, Damian, and Colombe. And they told me about Volt and their idea for the first European party. And it immediately struck a chord, and I thought, okay, I'm going to help out. I did a master's in law before, but I was working at a commercial job, which had a quite nice work-life balance, so I could do something besides my work. And I became the country lead in the Netherlands. We eventually enrolled in the previous elections, the European Parliament elections, and I became the lead candidate. So I stepped out of my role as the country lead. We have now a great person doing that called Laurens, and I was the lead candidate for the elections, and we managed to get 106,000 votes, 2% of the votes of the entire of all the votes. However, not enough, because we only have 26 seats in parliament as the Netherlands. So we went quite far, but not far enough. But I'm very happy that you did make it work in Germany, because the distance between 0 and 1 is infinite. So I'm very happy that we made that first step. For the next 2 years, I see a path for Volt that would consist for 6 months on consolidation, bringing our organization to the next level, and then 18 months of growth and positive impact. And for that, I also made a plan that I launched today that you can see on Workplace, and that we can go more in depth on this Sunday when I organize Q&As about it. And it consists of 3 main topics that are largely organizational as well, because I think the role of the next co-presidents and the next board is to a large extent making sure that other people can flourish and put the political message out there, more than being the political actor themselves. It's also a role, but I think it's more organizational. So I will tap on the organizational stuff first and then move into politics a bit further, and I think might be able to answer your question a bit more. So my plan consists of 3 things: strengthen the Volt community, make a truly European movement. Oh, thank you very much. Make a truly European movement. And thirdly, unleash the Volt potential. And firstly, strengthen the Volt community. The first 6 months of this year, we have been forced to work in a national framework of elections. And with that, our European sense of community has diluted a little bit. In order to change that, we need to organize more European events, more personal contact, but also we need a new European goal. I think the European parliamentary elections of 2024 are too far away, and we need a common goal to unite around. I want to make the option of everybody proposing different things of what the European goal could be, vote upon it, and then strive to that goal in the coming 2 years. And I'm going to put a proposal forward as well, which is starting a European citizen initiative for a high-speed train network around Europe. and try to collect with the entire Volt community 1 million votes. And with that, putting it on the agenda of the European Commission, showcasing to the people who are currently in power that the European people want this and need to make this happen. That's what I'm going to propose, and I wish there to be a lot of other proposals, vote upon them, and then have a European goal that we can also strive towards in the next 2 years. And I want to create more of a sense of a European team with the European events, but also with more cross collaboration, and trying to emphasize our European representative, because that's what I keep telling in the Netherlands. Damian isn't the German Volt representative. He is also the representative of the entire constituency in the Netherlands and in all the other 26 countries. So I want to make sure that we have a communication team around him that makes sure that what he says and does in Parliament actually in Portugal and Estonia. People ask questions about between gigantic teams like Germany and smaller teams like Greece, where there's 10 active Volters, and I was there last Wednesday. The disbalance can be challenging for an organization that wants to be truly European. So I want to make sure we grow in every region, east, west, north, south, and center. But if we try to do it all at the same time, we don't focus enough and we might not be able to. So I want to focus on getting 2 teams in every region with at least 250 active volunteers. And if we've reached that goal, I want to create political legal entities in the 13 countries where we don't have any yet. And I've experience in growing teams in the Netherlands. I love doing it. I followed the community organizing course at Harvard by Marshall Guns. It really helps the team in the Netherlands grow. And I think I can use that, what I've learned there, to grow more teams. That's also why in Greece last Wednesday, I organized an event there, met like 30 new people, and some of them are actually coming to Sofia to get to know Volt. So that's a way to get new people in. And unleash the Volt potential. That for me is that the only way we can make this movement work is by making sure that the talent of every individual can flourish. And for that, we need to be truly professional. We need to have enough funds to hire a full-time team. Today, the vacancies for 3 full-timers in the Netherlands have gone out. I'm very proud of that achievement. We are now able to hire 3 full-timers that can make sure that all the volunteers do work that adds up to something big.
Well.
And I was in Berlin with Omri as well 2 weeks ago, and I went to the Volt office there as well. And I believe you have like 8 now. So now we have a team in Belgium, in Germany, and in the Netherlands that's going to be professional. My goal is to not only have the European team in the Parliament, but also around the European board and in as many other countries as possible after that. One of the key things that we need to do in professionalizing is making sure that we have clear decision-making processes and clear ways of working. The bigger you are, the more important it is that you know what processes we have in place, so you can trust that people work in a certain way, and you can trust on outcomes and that we will proceed in a certain way, especially if you talk about policy. Because we've created a backbone, the mapping of policies, our vision for Europe. And in the next 2 years, it will need an update. But besides that update, we will need a lot of national and local party programs to participate in elections. Because that's the question you ask after that. What do you actually want? You are this cool, progressive pan-European movement against nationalism, but what do you want to change? And on the European level, we can say, oh, we want the European Parliament to have the right for initiative. We want all these different things because it's in the mapping of policies. In the Netherlands, we will have elections if the cabinet stays in March 2021. And we have started crafting a policy process for the next year to make a national party program. And we do that within the boundaries of the mapping of policies. And in order to stay a truly European party that doesn't have party programs that are different from Essen to Venlo to Lisbon, we need to make sure that the European policy team and the local and national policy teams work closely together. But there's no process in place to organize that now. So the European board needs to make that as soon as possible. And then each team, each region for their specific elections can start drafting a proposal, a policy proposal that's in a way that's similar to how we make the mapping of policies. So that would mean a lot of discussions, a lot of talk, people facilitating, coming up with ideas, drafting proposals, giving feedback on it, and eventually voting on it. And that's how you can, when you're in the street and you talk to someone who says, so what are you going to do for Essen? You can say, well, we want to renovate that park. And that's how we'll reach that point. In the end, I think if you talk about politics and you try to make it as simple as possible, it's three things. It's having good ideas, it's convincing people of those good ideas, and then actually, once you're elected, putting those good ideas in place, in practice. And we've been very good at Volt in the first thing, having good ideas. You look at the mapping of policies, 200 pages, and it was kind of hard for us to actually translate that to something easy and accessible. In Germany, it ended up with Jetzt bist du dran. In the Netherlands, our slogan was Wir sind Europa. We are Europe. Wij zijn Europa. And the funny thing is that you start with something small, it gets really big, and then it goes all the way, once it's about communicating strategically, it goes all the way back to 3 simple words. But for me, they really reflect the Europe we want to go towards, and also the Volt I want to create, and that we will create together. So we are Europe are the words that I would like to end off with. Perhaps this has brought you some questions. Feel free to answer them, and thank you very much for listening.
Any questions? Okay.
Should I give you this?
Thank you. So you talked about your driving momentum is, or your energy, your sourcing is injustice. I have some problems with this word because for everybody, injustice is at least one thing different than yours. So is it maybe a better way to address the problems in a different way than by injustice? Because I was a big brother, and my little sister was bullying me. So therefore, I don't know if it's okay, because a lot of every party actually says we want to fight injustice and Gerechtigkeit. Yeah. So can you think about a different way about approaching or driving your energy? Sorry. Yeah, that's the question.
Thank you very much. Interesting question. Yeah. Well, it's hard with these kind of big words that what somebody associates with that word is can be entirely different from what somebody else associates with it. And often when somebody says, "What do you stand for?" ask me that question on the street, and I give our values like sustainability, equal chances, justice, one that my heart starts beating faster for, is people say, yeah, but everybody says that. Who's against equal chances? Who's against injustice? And it's true. But at the same time, it does, for me, embody what I felt when I joined Volt for the first time. So I think that's why I started the story that way. And there's thousands of ways to go about it. Usually when I talk to people on the street about Volt and they ask me, what do you stand for, or why should I vote for you? I don't start telling what we stand for. I ask a question back and ask, what do you think is important? And that's the most important way to convince people, in my opinion, to find out what is important to them and how does that apply to our mapping of policies and to what we stand for in our vision.
Some more questions.
Of course, of course.
Thanks. Sorry. So me, little bro, as well. So I know your position. Now, my question is on the things you said. Again, I share 100%. I think that's great. Point is, how do we get that done? How do we get that done with the people in the local areas? So there, I think it's not just enough to ask people about their standpoint. Very often they do not have a very clear standpoint because they do not reflect this way on the issue. They expect from us standpoints because they expect from us, if we say we are politics, then they see with us the responsibility to produce solutions. And that is the point. How will we position ourselves in a way which is, at least for a part, the same in Aachen, in Essen, in Marseille, in Kiev, everywhere in Europe?
Thank you. I think I wasn't clear enough in describing how I think we can achieve that. But I feel the European vision should give us a sort of a framework in which you can move around a little bit. So if we have this big European vision, and part of that is battling being anti-corruption, then that's something we could focus on in Bulgaria, but it wouldn't be weird for the local elections in Amsterdam to talk about anti-corruption.
Sure.
And I don't think it will get us many votes. So, you need to stay similar across Europe, and for that, the European policy team should be in close touch with the local policy teams who draft the policies here. And with that, I think we can make it work. Yeah, try to stay brief.
But there's still a job to do.
There's a massive job to do. Yeah, it was interesting because in the Netherlands we have a party that, if you would put the mapping of policies next to their vision for the European Parliament elections, there's a 90% overlap. It's called D66, and that was the question we got the most. Like, okay, how are you different from D66? So we've spent a lot of time in that thought process. On one hand, on your actual policies, because what people are fed up with in the Netherlands, and I feel in other places across Europe, is also political parties trying to look for, where is my strategic openness and where can I get the votes, instead of just saying, this is what I believe in, and hey, he believes that too. Oh, that's great, and we can work together. So that should always be the starting point. What do we believe in, and not necessarily where is electoral room. I'm not saying we shouldn't be strategic, but the starting point should be.
Still room for a question?
No. Thank you.
Thank you, too.
But I have a question to the audience. Does anybody need a short rest? Kind of pause? Irgendjemand?
Break.
A little break? No?
Kit Kat.
Okay, no break. Okay. I need someone. Okay. Okay. Marco? Okay. Marco?
Shall I start?
You can hear us.
I can hear you. The question is, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
What?
Great. All right. So, well, as you probably know, I'm not a candidate for one of the co-president positions, but for the so-called non-executive board roles. There are 3 of them for each main sexes, and I would like to say a little bit about myself here. I'm David Zulke, known as Draco to most of you, I guess, and my political activism dates back a little bit more than the foundation of Volt, to be honest. I I'm 25 years old now, if that interests anyone. And 4 years ago, when I was 21, that was before Brexit already, there were already like rumors and reports about that a little English island off the coast who were planning on potentially leaving the European Union, and that frightened me as a convinced European federalist. And I was convinced that, as it was said before by other people here in this room, that I am somebody too who can do something. And my way of being active in the past years has always been via social media mostly. I would consider myself of, being a talented social media user who's easily reaching out to literally millions of people. So that's what I did. I created a little platform on my own, got some friends in the project, some more volunteers. First there was United States of Europe Now, quite a niche project, which went bigger and bigger. And eventually I became active in a bigger NGO called Stand Up for Europe, which didn't have a positive ending last year, but I would like to mention it nonetheless. I was there in the executive board too for more than a year, a way bigger board than what we planned for Volt, and it wasn't a party, but just a citizens movement, but pan-European too. And initially it aimed to, create some basically democratic approaches all across Europe to gather support for a more united federal Europe and to keep the UK close to the European Union, of course. And as you know, obviously, one of the projects failed. The United Kingdom decided to leave the European Union. And well, several months later, in 2018, this entire movement basically practically dissolved too, and I and several hundreds of other people left that, and most of us came to Volt, which was kind of positive because it gave Volt a little bit of boost. But I am, well, I consider myself as experienced in the little power plays of pan-European movements, and I would say most of us, we all have more or less the same goals. That's what brings us together, and we are convinced that we are stronger together. But politics can be dangerous too. Internally and externally, there are always people who think a little bit different, who suddenly feel the need to create borders in their minds, to separate each other. And I would like to, well, I'm elected into the board by you as a non-executive board member, to have, first of all, an eye on the internal processes. I'm deeply in love with democracy and the united Europe. And that's why I decided not to lead the entire movement as a co-president, but to give some little bit of internal guidance for the board to lead in a right direction. And to do so, of course, I wrote down 3 goals as well, though in opposite to the co-president candidacies here, not so much about where is Volt heading to, how do we represent it, because that's my conviction that they're doing the job and I really hope that they'll do an amazing job, and seeing the candidates, convinced that they'll be able to deliver that, what they promise. But we have to focus on who's actually Volt, and that's what I want to focus on, and how can we make their life easier, more or less, by delivering three important points that, yeah, I'm focusing on. So first of all, internal transparency. We have a lot of new people involved, a lot of them who joined after the elections, which is great. That means that we were successful. A lot of people heard about us. But what I'm hearing as well is some kind of critique that they feel lost in, well, we aren't that big, to be honest. The first when I heard that, I was a little bit surprised. I was like, hey, we're just some hundreds or some thousands of people. How do you feel lost? But it makes sense because it can get really crowded and a little bit complicated with all the workplace stuff and all the emails, and especially for people, the majority of us who have never been active in a political party before. And we have to help those people. So my ideas basically, and I'm feeling inspired by you guys from both Germany, to be honest. There was some Volt leaks circulating some month ago, and I hope this project is still running. That is helping to make regular members being aware of what's actually happening in the upper ranks of Volt. Like not everyone is directly connected to every decision process, and that's totally okay. That's why we elect people. That's why we elect a board in Sofia. But we have to keep everyone updated, and sending everyone a mail or two every week is probably doing that, or not for everyone, sadly. So I want to push for some Volt Leaks news show, basically. Video communication is what brings across a message the most efficient way. So that's my first point. We have to keep everyone updated, especially people who are already involved. Secondly, the external communication. As you know, European elections are over and there aren't any new ones coming in the next years. All we have is some local, regional, national elections, and that's the most important for the regional chapter, of course, but not for the entirety of Volt Europa all at once. So what we have to do is to make everyone being united behind a shared goal. And of course, we have the entire mapping of policies. We have our Amsterdam Declaration, but for a lot of people, that's rather abstract, sadly. So what we need is some main words, some main ideas that we can easily transport on different media, on our own channels, that we can tell a newspaper and they're immediately convinced, hey, we should actually write an article about this, because after some time, it's now been more than 2 years that we've been founded and we've lost that status of a newcomer. We have not the bonus of a newcomer anymore. There's a new party, media are always interested. Hey, they're new, we should write about them. We should make some documentation about them. And those times are over, sadly. So we have to come up with a lot of new projects and a lot of new or established already keywords that we can use to keep everyone interested externally and where all the Volters can unite behind them. And last but not least, my third point is what I call sustainable Volt culture. We have a big issue, and that's the difference between us calling ourselves pan-European, we are the first pan-European party, or call it whatever, and the legal reality where we have to run in different national states as officially different national parties. And we have to make sure that this complicated legal reality is not being in our own way, that we are not eventually facing such issues that have been addressed here 20 minutes ago too, that we have a strong German party as one instance, and maybe Volt Italia and Volt Nederland. Those are strong countries for Volt, whereas Volt Poland and Volt Greece are very, very small, and some countries are basically non-existent. So we have to keep that very idea of being one family or one, amazing pan-European movement alive, and prevent potential breakups that I'm seeing little hints of every now and then, to be honest. Dangerous hints of ideas that you can just focus on your own stuff and be more efficient. That's not the idea of Volt. We have to be united. We have to be together. So in short, yeah, these are the main 3 topics that I'd like to focus on: the sustainable Volt culture, the transparency, and the external communication, if I'm being elected into the European board. And if you have any more questions about me or about my ideas or my past or future, feel free to ask.
Thank you, Draco. Any questions for Draco?
No.
Sorry.
It's okay. Apologize.
Okay. No question. Okay, Draco.
I was too clear. All right.
Okay. What will you do when you achieve the world domination?
Make me king.
Did you just ask what I'd like to do when I achieve world domination?
Yeah. Right.
Okay. If I achieve that goal, I'd like to have some amazing holidays.
Good answer. Okay. Any other questions? So, I think we have eine Pause verdient. So, jetzt aber. Ob ihr wollt oder nicht, es gibt eine Pause.
Okay.
Little break. Break. Ist das Wort. Da wir eine gesunde Partei sind, dann machen wir eine schöne Abschlusspause.
Markus ist zum Beispiel ich stelle erstmal das Bier her. Okay, we are happy to have Vahid here to tell us something about himself. Do you hear us, Vahid? Would you please unmute? Yes.
Yes, sure. Hey, everyone.
So the audience is looking forward to hear your words. Please.
Thank you very much indeed. Guten Abend, liebe Wolters. Good evening to everyone. And thanks Olaf and his team, Dennis and your team for the opportunity. And that's a great opportunity. I'm sorry that I'm not sharing the video. If you wish I will. I had to come out of home. My daughter is sleeping now, and I'm not trying to wake her up. So I've chosen my car to speak to you. So I hope it's gonna be okay. So I'm Vahid Salamat. I'm a member of Volt Florence and Volt Europa.
Okay, sorry, please. We're not, yeah, go closer to the microphone. We're not hearing you very well.
Are you hearing me now well?
Yeah, better. Yes.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. I am Vahid Salamat.
We lost you again. To stay to them.
Good. You're hearing well now. Good. So a little bit about myself. I'm born outside the European Union, and I consider myself European by choice. And I've chosen to be European around 11 years ago when I was in England and living there. I was a British, and then I decided one day with my wife, we decided to go to Italy, and we stayed there. So throughout my career, I've never thought about politics, being active. I was always interested, but I had never thought about being actively, let's say, doing such an activity like what I'm doing in Volt today. But around 2 years ago, when I was already changed my citizenship even to Italian citizenship and totally integrated in the society, I felt that after the elections of the right wing here, the Lega, got very powerful, and the populists, they got powerful. I felt that there's a necessity to take serious actions. And there, due to my background, where I lived almost all my life, most of my life in a European context, I was always, let's say, working in different country, living in different country of Europe. I was looking for an identity that a European identity, where I can associate myself and be active with, because frankly speaking, it was my comfort zone. To my surprise, I did not find at the beginning, let's say, European party, and it was very surprising for me that that such a thing does not exist. I had to do a lot of research to find finally Volt Europa. This small political party or association or something like that was forming at that time. I got involved in that at the beginning. I got a little bit active in European level, in Global Balance Group, and gave some ideas in policies and so on. But after a while, I thought that one of the defects of the European Union today is that the distance that they have to the local territories, and I didn't want to make the same mistake. So what happened that I tried to go out of my comfort zone and go to get active in a local level. So I joined Volt Italy that time. I was one of the co-founding members of the Volt Italy, and I started with Andy Shehu and Giacomo. We basically co-founded the Volt Florence, that today is the second or third biggest group in Italy, and I think one of the most powerful groups in Volt Italy, and in running ahead in a lot of campaigns and a lot of initiatives. So this is a short story of my activity in Volt. In the last year and more than a year and a half, I've done many activities in Volt Italy. I've acted as a advisor to the president of Volt Italy, Federica Vinci. I've been active in different campaigns in Volt Italy, and have had always the one eye on the territory, Florence, Tuscany, and basically connecting the territories to the national leadership. I insist on the territory because later on I come with that. This is one of my points that I think is very important. So beside this, unfortunate for me, I've not been privileged to go full time or dedicate all of my time to Volt because I had to work and I had to build my career as well. On that side, luckily, I could build a good career for myself today. I'm a director of Geschäftsführer of a German company in Koblenz. I live in Florence and work for this German company and run the business in our global business, mainly in Middle East and Asia. Basically travel around and manage the people and do everyday job of managing crisis and plannings and strategies and developments and this kind of activity. This has helped me a lot in growing as a person. I'm 36 years old today, but I'm working with a team of directors that the youngest one is basically 54 years old. And there I've learned many things from the experienced persons, and I've learned many things from, let's say, personal initiatives, how to bring the battles and how to bring the ideas to the action and plan for it and be credible. So I've been bringing these two parallel lines up together until a couple of months ago, where there was a call for the board of Volt Europa. Frankly speaking, at the beginning, I did think about it a little bit, but I put it aside because of the fact that I was sure and I believe that there are going to be suitable figures for Volt Europa. We have a great number of talented persons in Volt Europa. You observed today from Omri, from Reinier, from Draco, many other ones. They're really. I'm proud to run beside these guys, and Valerie, of course. And I didn't think about it so seriously to run. I had some objectives. I was seeing some, let's say, lacks in the, let's say, initial list of candidates. I waited for the first list to go out, but the list that came out did not satisfy me in a few points. And that's where, with the consultation of a few persons in mainly in Volt Italy and Volt Europe, Volt Germany, Volt Frankfurt, they persuaded me to run and start this, let's say, challenge. Just a few points that I want to point out. I think in the future board, there's a necessity of experienced persons who have the persons who have experience in the playing in the transnational, multinational, multicultural context, and to be able to intermediate in the let's say less easy times. This meeting is internal. I can speak openly. There are country leads there. They can also confirm. And you all can confirm that in the last few months, unfortunately, a couple of months prior to the European Union election and a couple of months after that, we have not had very easy time on the European level. Let's say it was our first challenge, and many of the, let's say, lack of unity, process that we had, it came out, and few of us suffered, let's say, as countries. I personally suffered because of the fact that we had to challenge on many things, and many of us felt a little bit our unity damaged and injured during this time. This could be a little bit normal for a young, let's say, political association, political party. We are just like over 2 years young, but we cannot afford the same mistakes. We cannot afford the same context over and over again. We have to grow as the community. We are facing a very challenging period of time right now. It's the time that basically the board of Volt Europa is transiting from founders who have a vision and mission of a particular vision that they have and particular passion that they have had. They are founders. It's changing to directors. It's changing to managers. We are trying to hand it over to managers. I've experienced this 2 times in my career. This is a very crucial time where managers, their logic and the way of their approach is totally different, and the founders is different. You see even today the approaches and the passion or the let's say point of view they put. So I believe there is a need for a serious intermediation skills in the world of Volt Europa. And to be able to intermediate between different interests. One of the failures is a big word, one of the, let's say, lack of experiences that we felt during the last few months was the fact that in a few occasions, national interests were put ahead of, let's say, our European interests. Okay, it can happen, but we have to sit down and we have to define processes and decision-making processes and criteria. We have to create dynamics based on which we can pass much easier and with less damage the next crises, because as we go ahead, the challenges are going to be bigger. As we go ahead, the problems are going to be bigger, and we have to grow as the organization in a much better, much faster way. So the first point that I'm bringing in, that is, I'm pointing out that for me is very important, is a sustainable unity. Sustainable unity, not, I don't mean just a, let's say, motivational speaking or bringing the people together under one umbrella. The sustainable unity is created by defining a transparent process and transparent functions, which can be managed by every single leadership or let's say national or European leadership during a problem. So we can arrive from a problem, not to create a conflict, but to arrive to a solution. So this is a skill that luckily I have had the chance to develop it in the last years quite well. It was tested also. I tested myself also during the European elections, in the context of Volt. So it helped me to grow as well. So I'm trying to bring that into the board. So the second point, I go directly to the point because I don't want to take much of time. The second point that I would like to bring, as you noticed, I have been active most of my, let's say, Volt career at the, let's say, territory level. And I'm proud of it because of the fact that I think, due to the fact that Volt is still very young. So we all have had, like, let's say 1 year, 1.5 years, or maximum 2 years to gain experience during the Volt. So this is a very short time. But I chose to start from the bottom, from the lower part of the of Volt, from the roots. Whoever has built a city team knows the challenges and the obstacles that you're facing every day. So if you don't understand these obstacles and challenges, how can we go to the European level and European leadership and make a decision based on, let's say, for the persons that are at our roots? So the second point that I'm bringing in strongly is the attention, a great attention to the territories. We have to make dynamic and the systems that the leadership, European leadership of Volt, it becomes very close to the territory. At the moment, we are falling into the same trap of the actual European Union. And if you see the distance between the European leadership of Volt and the local territory team, except during the campaigns, except during the special occasion, it's quite a long distance. We are far away, so reaching the ideas and the voices of the persons at the territory to the leadership is quite difficult at the moment. I open a parenthesis. Few months ago, with the team of Volt Frankfurt, you probably have heard of it. We came up with we saw that there is a common, let's say, problem. We think about the same problem. That the only point that Volt Germany and Volt Italy were basically interacting between each other, except the spot activities, at the border activities, and so on. The only place, the only connection that they had was through our presidents and some individual Italians or Germans that they were, let's say, interacting between each other in policy team and so on. This is something that in a pan-European party it should be totally changed. And we with Volt Frankfurt, we proactively started a pilot project that will be released in a couple of months with results and documents, a project of partnerships, and we are basically sharing our operations, sharing our knowledges, problems, challenges, and everything else. So attention to the territory, to me, is very important. I can go in detail. Even our policy making, from my point of view, the process of policy making has to be redesigned because of the fact that today there are some individuals from every country. They are going and forming a group and making policies for everyone. This has to be completely, in my point of view, opposite. There are territories that they have to bring ideas. This is a diffuse leadership. This is a spread leadership concept that we have to work on. On a spread leadership, we start policy making from the single voter in a single city, and we start from there and we bring it up to the European level. So totally opposite. This is a second point that is a topic that I keep is important for me to bring it in as a point of agenda. As Draco also mentioned, that as a non-executive board member, we are not supposed to bring programs in, but we are supposed to be a great help for the executive board, co-presidents, and treasurer to make a good decision. So this is something to point out. We have to know, all of us, the role and duties that we have. The third point that I'm trying to bring in is the fact the title that we are using a lot these days are used a lot, and the fact of a new way of doing politics. There are great activities being done, and I'm really happy to see many of the initiatives that are started from different countries that are being done. So, you hear me? Stay, everybody quiet.
Yeah,
Am I speaking too fast?
No.
Okay. So the third point that is I'm retaining that is very important is organic growth within the whole territory of the Volt, or basically European Union. I do not agree of the fact that we are limited. We are having a limited resource, therefore we have to focus on certain points and let them grow on certain points. I have to confess that I've experienced this fact that a constant organic growth through the whole organization, it's a much better idea than let's say making some countries one by one a dark violet color in the. You all have seen the membership map probably on workplace. We have this issue that which is at this stage of our life as Volt is a bit natural, because the growth of certain chapters of Volt have been the result of certain events. In Germany, the European Union and the election of Damien was basically the main source of a great growth. Of course, German team did an excellent job during the European election. We are all proud of it. Volt Italy as well, Volt Netherlands as well, great job by presidents. But certain events, they made this growth, they accelerated this growth. In other countries, we lacked a little bit. It didn't work. How basically we presented ourselves. I believe that it's time now to pay attention to this organic growth. Why do I call it organic growth? But because of the fact that if we think European, if we think as a federal Europe, if we think all of us as one single body, we have to pay attention immediately to the bodies, to the parts that are not growing enough, fast enough. We have to go and see what are their problems. We have to create, for example, task forces, particular task forces for helping the teams out, helping the national teams out, give them consultants, don't leave the presidents and the leadership of national teams alone. Help them just as we start on a territory. Who has started, as I say, who has started the local team from zero knows at the beginning, even for making a simple event or meetup, you challenge many things. You start finding out a lot of things by yourself, while a consultant maybe from a national team or a European team could make the life much easier. We have to do the same thing to the nations, to the chapters that have not grown enough. They are not growing in a correct way, and it's time to act now, because we have to guarantee equality between all the nations, which brings diversity, which brings difference of ideas, which makes our policies more accurate. The moment we are, let's be honest, we are making, let's say, the countries that are more developed involved, they get more power and more influence on many issues at the leadership of European, let's say, Volt and leaders, let's say, lead of policies, event, and many things. So organic growth, paying attention on investing our money, our human resource in a right way, in a right place, and to guarantee our presence and our diversification in whole the European Union territory. So I hope I didn't go over the time available for me, so I stop here. It's 40 minutes I'm speaking over. So any question? So if there is any question, I will be thrilled to respond.
I have a question. Hello, Vanity, it's Sasha. It's about your organic growth. I don't get it quite well because it's for me somehow contradictory. For me, organic growth is something without gardening, but you actually want to garden Volt. Is it right?
What do you mean with the gardening Volt?
Der Gärtner zu sein.
Gärtner zu sein. So, what I explained it. What I mean with the organic growth. Organic growth basically. Go on.
No, you want to send someone or to empower the people in the cities or in the regions to get it bigger. But organic growth is actually something that's coming from inside and not from outside.
This is totally true. There is if you are considering the terminology of the organic growth, basically that means like an organ, like a body. If some part of this body is not functioning well, let's say the force of the other parts of the body goes into that part of the, let's say, organ, and help that organ to recover and retain. This is exactly what I mean. Organic growth, by organic growth, what I mean that we have to make sure that this distance between the growth that we have in Germany and we have in Italy, but we don't have it in Poland, we don't have it in Romania, this distance is not getting bigger. This is a, let me say, at the moment is not yet a dangerous thing, but it can be a defect, a big defect, not easily repairable in the future. So at the moment, our distance is not big. I mean, recovery is possible. But what I mean is that, let's say an example. In Italy, we have a great number of members. We have already working on good resources, I mean financial and human resources, and we can help out the chapters that they are in difficulty, because in every country, every context, the difficulties they are facing are different. We have to go there and realize what are the difficulties they are facing, and based on that difficulty that they are facing, to apply a right pattern to help them to grow. This is what I mean. I hope I answered you correctly.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? So thank you very much for your statement. So that's your applause then.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and wish you all a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. What's the next point? We've got one video. One video statement, and then there could be a bunch.
We have to also speaking.
Okay, you can balance.
So we introduce you to A, right? Yeah. Okay, that's the last one for this video. It's like 4 minutes, and then you may smoke again. Enough with its open discussion, and yeah, that's and thank you. There he is. So that's it.
Okay, time for the bar.
Yeah. You can grab some beer and ask
He runs for the bar.
anything. I have one question. Is there anyone who's not involved right now? You won't. Like, okay. So everyone, go to him.